The U.S. Supreme Court continues to go over several cases today. In a major case they have yet to decide. We've been on pins and needles on this one. Is the whole birthright citizenship case. Joining us in studio this morning is North Central College professor Stephen Caliendo. Professor Caliendo, could we see a ruling on this? I mean, I guess you don't have a crystal ball, but what are your thoughts here?
Well, look, we're down to 12 cases left to hear from the cases that the Supreme Court heard oral arguments on this year. Today's a decision day. We'll probably have another one next Tuesday. Next Thursday, maybe. They'll never go past the 4th of July. So, I mean, 6 would be a lot. We had 5 decisions on Tuesday, none of which were the ones you and I had talked about in the morning. So we could get 6 today, 6 Tuesday, and then be done with it. Likely, though, we might go into next Thursday.
Okay.
You're stuck with me for a little bit.
Crunch time. Yeah. Okay, so one of the things that's been getting a lot of buzz is this case surrounding mail-in ballots. Right. And I know that the president, this has been a big sticking point between him and members of Congress even this week.
Yeah, so just yesterday morning, he was the president was planning on signing this really overwhelmingly bipartisan legislation about housing affordability, right? And it seemed like a win for everybody. And he canceled it, saying that he's not going to do it until the SAVE Act gets passed. The SAVE Act is this bundle of voting regulations that the president has been pushing for some time. It doesn't have enough votes to get through the Senate. The case that Watson versus RNC, the case that the Supreme Court is going to decide this term, is not, it doesn't cover most of the things in the SAVE Act, but it does say that mail-in ballots will only be allowed to count if they're received on Election Day. Okay, so now 30 states allow ballots to be counted as long as they're postmarked by Election Day. Because now you're really putting the pressure on the U.S. Postal Service to make sure when they actually get there. Louisiana has a law that says they have to get there the day before elections, but most other states that allow mail-in ballots say, as long as they're postmarked by Election Day, we'll count them later. This doesn't address when they would be counted, but it does address when they could be allowed to be counted.
Wow. Okay.
It's a lot, right?
Yeah,
it's a lot.
Indeed. Any other major rulings we should be keeping an eye out for?
Yeah, there's a couple. Of course, we always talk about the birthright citizenship. We have the 2 related cases on trans rights, trans girls and trans women in sports, and then we have a geofencing case. So this is sort of a privacy case where there was a robbery at a bank, and the police asked the tech companies to give them all the information from people's mobile phones from a very wide range. In other words, not just in the bank, but all over. Well, you and I might have walked past that bank, and our phone would have given information. And so the question is, how wide can that fence be? Can tech companies be asked to, or should they be prohibited from providing our personal data from our devices to law enforcement under certain conditions?
You also said there was a decision recently involving dreadlocks.
On Tuesday, right? The Supreme Court made this decision. Interesting, right? Because a lot of critics are saying this is a court who is focused on religious liberty and making sure that the First Amendment protections were there. But in this particular case, we had a Rastafarian whose dreadlocks were shaved against his will with only 3 months left of his sentence, and he tried to sue. The Supreme Court did not say that it was right that they shaved his dreadlocks or that he didn't have the right to have dreadlocks in prison. What they said was that the law under which he sued was not the proper mechanism. But still, it's uncomfortable, right? It's uncomfortable to say, well, some religious freedom needs to be protected, but other religious freedom doesn't, particularly because there's a very important racial element to this one.
Professor Caliendo, thanks for your perspective. We will keep an eye on this birthright citizenship stuff and bring you back when needed.